Just imagine you have a software or hardware product, you have a test strategy, you have test plan, a big set of test cases, every test case passed well, but do you think user cannot find a bug in your product? Hello, my name is Ivan Pushechnikov, and I would like to tell you about targeted exploratory testing and about my cases in this area. Also, I will give you some advice about how to perform targeted exploratory testing, how to open your creative potential, and to be maximum useful for developers who use result of this work. So now a few words about my experience. I started to work of quality assurance engineer about 15 years ago, and I started from railway parts. As an acoustic, I had to check these parts by ultrasonic. I checked whether they have no defects and whether they could be used in trains to make safety transportation, to make all passengers in safe in all ways. Well, it is very responsible work, but next my job positions were more interesting. One of them is in area of physical access control systems. What is it? It is doors, turnstiles, and other control points which any person can pass in or out using a card. I will tell about these systems a lot today, but my experience not only in these two areas. Also, I worked in bank transaction, in forex trading companies, in enterprise management companies. I tested some gadgets. I tested many kind of hardware, and now I test automobile hardware and software. So I have more than 10 years experience in manual testing and about 2 years of automation testing. Okay, what is targeted exploratory testing? Maybe you think that this is something like ad hoc testing, but I think it's not. Now I want to tell about such kind of exploratory testing, which is targeted to reproducing a possible issue. So it can be named targeted exploratory testing. Sometimes issue could be found by a user, not a tester, And this is a huge problem because in this case sometimes nobody know how to reproduce this issue. All tests passed well, so in usual test case we have no way, no steps to reproduce this issue. A developer cannot reproduce this issue as well, and good decision is to do this task, targeted exploratory testing. In this task, QA engineer use any way, use any tools he want, but he need to achieve one target: reproduce this issue. And it will be very useful for developers, very useful for company, because if issue has been found by user, so user is very interested in in fast resolving this issue, and the company will a company wants to do it as soon as possible. So, what do we have on starting targeted exploratory testing? We have no test cases, we have no plans, we have almost no documents about issue and about step to reproduce it, but you can get some information from user or from maybe developer who only suggest to reproduce this issue. Well, so you can do anything. You can open your creativity, and everybody wait to get a result. Result must be written down in details, step by step, how to reproduce this issue with maximum possible frequency. Well, let's do a step back, and I want to tell you about an interesting case with testing physical access control systems. I worked in not big team. We have no automation testers. Everybody tests everything by manual. But we have a problem because physical access control system has many control points. In each control points, in reality, it can be hundreds of passages by a day. So we need a way to emulate this this situation. What we have? We have every needed equipment, control modules of this system, servers, database servers, many readers, and sometimes thousands of cards. This is like in reality, because in one organization maybe many control points, maybe many persons who can come inside, who can entrance and exit every day. in morning, in evening, go on lunch, any perhaps by in this company, and we need to emulate every event which could be performed in the system. The typical work cycle of system is the next. A person come to organization building, he have a card and he bring a card to a reader at the control point. In this moment, system reads this card, system look for information in database, and it makes a decision about to deny or to access this person in this control point. So after this action, a person could be stopped at this point, or it can pass through the door or through the turnstile, and this work cycles might repeat thousands of 1,000 times of a day. So this information about passages or stopping persons are logged in files or in databases. Also in systems could be performed some another actions like pressing a button on control panel, like some interrupting of system, loss of internet connection, and so on and so on. Every of this event we need to emulate. So what we do? We also have only two hands, therefore we cannot bring cards to many readers in one time. We cannot press many buttons in one time. But what we can do? We created many scripts, and each script was assigned to a card. These scripts covered all our events which we need to test. So by bringing a card to a reader, we can start needed script, and we can do needed action. Every action which could be performed in this system. So we in this way we had a system to emulate every event in our tested system, in our object of testing, by only one action, by bringing a card to a reader. But issue is still present. How can we bring many cards to many readers? And my friends, Vladimir Korolev, invented very interesting devices, not one device, but many devices to bring cards to readers. And most interesting of this methods was in using keyboard drawer under his table. So how it could be done? He put some cards on this drawer, and he put some card readers on the table. Then he could move keyboard drawer forward or move back, and each time all these cards on the drawer was brought to readers on the table, and it causes running needed scripts, performing every events which we need to do in our tested systems. So in this simple way we could perform every test cases which we need, every test cases, and we could do thousands of bringing cards to readers and any other actions in systems. It was much more simple, and it let us do all our tasks, perform all our tests much more fast. Okay, that was about creativity in our work, and now I want to tell about one case which is directly correspondent with targeted exploratory testing. It was in one company, which is not my company. It was many years ago, more than 10 years ago. So now you will not able to reproduce this issue. Please remember this. This issue was quickly resolved, and it was not in my company. Okay, issue was in physical control access system. When some person without card tried to pass through turnstile, he can do this. But how? Nobody know. Without card, without any pressing buttons on control panel, without any login information in database, nobody know how it is possible, because everything works good, works well, but a person who has no card at all can pass turnstile through. So specialists from developers department, from quality assurance department was thinking how to reproduce this issue. At the start point, they had no ideas how to reproduce. They tried any ways, any program tools, and then they tried hardware tools. One of Q engineers resolved this task by using electrical gas lighter. The cause was in static electricity only, and he showed everybody how to reproduce this issue with a simple electric gas lighter. So electric gaslighter generates about 10 kilovolt potential, which was used as a static electricity. And this causes rebooting of turning style module, and it gives person about half second to pass this turnstile. How it was performed in reality? In reality, a person had out wear. He take it off and walk to the turnstile. These actions let him generate static potential on his body. When he touch turnstile was rebooted. So issue was reproduced in very good frequency, and developers can resolve it. Issue was resolved by many ways in the time, by making good grounding, by changing some electrical elements, by choosing another kind of materials for turnstile module, and so on. So now you cannot reproduce this issue in any existing turnstile modules. Don't try. Well, now I want to tell about another kind of issue, which is very important because in testing environment we frequently cannot reproduce such kind of issues. You maybe know that some systems consist of many different parts. Sometimes these parts located in different places with long distances, and sometimes these parts may be inside of one server, because in one PC we can run many threads, many processes, and in each process could be done some actions, but consequence of performing these actions could be different in different kind of environment. So that is the problem, because in user's environment these actions could be performed in another quick sequence as it was performed in testing laboratory, in testing environment. So in a user case we could get such test cases which we had not passed in laboratory. So what I want to say, one test case could be divided to two test cases in two different environments because of rising, because some actions inside system could be performed in another sequence. I think you understand. But I will show you a case when I face it with this problem, and I am sure you will understand in details everything. Before I tell this case, I want to say that we can emulate such kind of issue by slowing down some processes, maybe on client side, maybe on server side, by interruption processes, interruption junction between electrical parts, and many other tools could be used to try to reproduce these issues. It's hard. You will never be sure that it gives you result, but you can try many ways, and one time maybe you will find a way which reproduce a needed issue with maximal frequency. That is what you need to reproduce an issue with maximal frequency. Well, now about my case. It was in accounting department. Which use our product to make some accounting operations. Among them was operation of creating an invoice. In this action, accounting specialist create one by one each items in invoice and then press a button save. In this moment, invoices sending to server part. Here it write down this invoice to database, and in the next second, user sees that invoice is saved, but in my case, invoice had doubled items in it. Interesting is that another accounting specialist did invoices, made invoices well without doubling. Our quality assurance specialist also check everything, and never invoices have been doubled. But one user do it many times. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows how do. He don't want to do it because it's his work. He want to do it very well, but invoices still was made with doubling. Why? We assumed that the problem is in SQL script, because sometimes mistakes in SQL scripts causes such kind of doubling information. We checked many times these scripts, but useless. We checked server part, we checked client part, but developers could not find any possible ways to reproduce this issue. Testers also cannot find. But one of testers tried to do double clicks. Why double clicks? In test cases, which was used for this invoice, every time used only one click to save this invoice. But the user may press mouse twice. Okay. But first trying to reproduce by double clicking was also not useful. And we tried more and more. Everybody tried to reproduce also by double clicking of mouse button. And one time it was performed. One tester could reproduce it by clicking twice. Because of this racing issue. So, reason of reproducing is mostly in time between two clicks on mouse. If this time is too short, in this case, a client part of system could not react to second click, and everything was good. If this time was too long, client part send request, server part write down information and send feedback, and client part block button save invoice, block this button, and the second click so block it. But in some kind of time between two clicks, we had this issue exactly, because button was not blocked and the second request was sent to server. So server received two requests by one invoice. Therefore, it saves this invoice in a doubled manner. Well, very hard to reproduce, very difficult issue, but very easy was to resolve it. Developer just blocked button save invoice in that moment when it was pressed once. So in any case after this, second pressing button save invoice do nothing. So after this update, we have never faced doublet invoices again. Problem was resolved. Well, now I want to make some piece of advice how to act before you have a resolution, before you have a way to reproduce needed issue, and after this moment. Well, before you have step to reproduce, before you have reproduced a needed issue, we have every possibilities you want. We have no plan. which you want to stick. We have no test cases. We have almost no documentation about reproducing this issue because nobody might reproduce it before. So you can do anything. You can open your creativity potential and don't make limits. Don't stop yourself if you want to make some experiments. Do everything you want. Try everything you want to try, and I'm sure you will be on the right way. But sometimes result is negative. Sometimes we cannot reproduce targeted issue, and this is okay because you tried. You almost prove that issue will be not reproduced. But if you are victorious, if you reproduce the issue, so you know in what environment it was reproduced, you know what steps was performed. So you need to investigate it and write it down in details. You could remember experience of writing test cases. The result of targeted exploratory testing is something like writing a test case. You also need to write about environment, about steps, about needed result, expected result, and actual result. And developer will be easy for developer to resolve this issue if you give enough information. You know this. Also, it's useful to write down information which you get for yourself and for your team. Because some new information may be not exist in corporate resources like Confluence, Wiki, and so on. So it will be very useful for future if you share with your colleagues with this information. And also it let you don't remember when you need to reproduce such kind of issue in future, or if you had target exploratory testing tasks in the future in this area of product. Also, it's good to write down all work what you performed doing this task. So your time will be logged correctly. Okay, and now time for questions and answers, and please write me on email, write me to social networks and so on. I'm really glad to contact everybody and to share our experience of quality assurance.